Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Fandom Post Radio podcast. I am your engineer, Cain. Joining me this week is Brandon.
Hello.
Kestrel.
Hi.
Brandon is now secret British. And Cain.
Good evening.
And we are here to talk about the winter 2024 anime season, which is lousy with a whole bunch of isekai this season, but we'll get around to that.
I think you mean fall 2023 part 2.
That's the only thing saving us from being lousy with isekai for the new year. So thankfully, Frieren and Mamo are saving us all from the horror that is just a whole lot of isekai. Do we have any news?
Yeah, I got a few news stories.
Cool.
Yeah. So one of them, it's award season, of course, and normally that doesn't really matter for weeb shit because nobody cares about us. But they do when Miyazaki makes a new movie, and The Boy and the Heron has been making quite the rounds in the awards community. Unfortunately, we are recording this literally hours before the biggest awards are announced, the nominations for the Academy Awards. So we don't know. You all know if The Boy and the Heron got a nomination for at least Best Animated Feature, which I'm sure it did. But we do not. So what did happen is it won the Golden Globe for Best Picture Animated. It was the first non-English and traditionally animated film to do so. So that is exciting. It's a big deal. And it was also nominated for Best Score, which is, also quite unusual for an animated feature to, especially an anime, to get outside of the Best Animated Feature category. So that was cool. Obviously, it did not win that one, but it won Best Animated Feature, and even Suzume was also nominated for that. And this is in a year when even Wish got a nomination for Best Animated Feature, so given that, I'd say Suzume has a pretty decent shot of getting even an Oscar nomination. But Boy and the Heron, almost guaranteed. Decent chance of winning, probably at this point. I think it's probably between that and Spider-Verse, which is certainly the better film. But it is also a sequel and inconclusive and a superhero movie. And the first one already won all the awards. So, yeah, Boy and the Heron might win Miyazaki another Oscar.
And, he was billing this as my final film, so of course.
Now, let me just stop you there.
Third season, the final chapter.
This is perhaps claimed was his final movie. Everyone just assumed it would be. And as soon as it got its world premiere, the second in command at Ghibli was like, yeah, no, he's literally making another movie already. This was never going to be his final movie. So it certainly could be, because the man is 82 and this one took 9 years or 10 years to make. But yeah, he is trying to make another movie at least. But it has been 10 years, so people are thirsty for more Miyazaki, even if they, don't understand what he actually made.
Yeah, I think regardless of him announcing retirement or not, it's one of those things where it's like, does he have enough time to make another movie? Because, in the span of this and his last movie, Takahata passed away, and the man is not getting any younger. He may be around 90 years old if he can get another movie out, so...
Exactly.
Yeah.
Does he have enough young people's souls to crush to make another movie?
I know he has already eaten most of the souls of the Japanese animation industry, but he's going to keep trying to find more.
I love that his take, too, is that, when I die, Ghibli's done for. He's like, it's cooked the second I'm gone. And everyone else at the studio, they're like, no, we're going to figure it out. Studio Ghibli's going to stay a thing. And he's like, it's like, Ghibli's just a word I made up. Airplane, who cares?
Suzuki is also like, the studio exists for Miya-san to make movies. Nobody else really matters. So they both know what's up.
Yeah.
Granduncle couldn't find his successor.
No. It's kind of fitting if it's the last one, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I think The Wind Rises was kind of maybe more fitting, but they all have their kind of air of finality to them, I suppose. So yeah, it works either way.
Mm-hmm. Hey, you know, at least it's getting the recognition at the award show now, which maybe will open up a non-Ghibli film, but that's also not like a Suzume. I feel like hopefully there's just more anime representation in the animated sphere. But
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Suzume got the Golden Globe nomination, could get an Oscar nomination. Hosoda got one Oscar nomination in the past. A few other Ghibli directors have got the nomination. So, yeah, you know, I think, especially if the big American studios keep failing, definitely good opportunities for Japanese films to get more recognition there.
mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's a lot of excellent animation out there worldwide that doesn't get any recognition whatsoever, which is silly because it's the easiest goddamn thing to dub and be acceptable to throw on a screen in another country, you know?
True, yeah. Yeah, it's really down to like how many nominations can G-Kids get? Because it used to be they got one a year, and now they can get like 2 or 3, and they're going to bring you everything that isn't the Disney schlock. So
yeah, they've cornered the market.
Yeah. Although I suppose Suzume is Crunchyroll if that does get the nomination, so it could be a big in, I suppose. We'll we'll be seeing the Oscars 2025 with Demon Slayer 2: The Hashira Training Best Animated Feature.
Yeah, it'll probably get dark like that eventually. Be like, oh, cool, great.
Probably not, but yeah. Okay. Anyway, next piece of news, Discotech had one of their little streams there, and they announced a bunch of stuff. So the big one was the 1997 Berserk anime, which is already up for pre-order, coming out in less than 2 months, and has already sold over 3,000 copies just on Amazon, which is substantially more expensive than Crunchyroll in the past week. How long has it been up? Less than a week? Yeah. So that's doing well. So that's awesome to see.
I love how one of their bullet points was, yes, we're going to have all of the outtake extras.
Of course, yes.
That's great.
Yeah, so they got that. They got the Urusei Yatsura OVAs, which completes all classic Urusei Yatsura under them, which they put out in like, I don't know, a year, like hundreds of episodes. Mazen Kaiser, the Mazinger spin-off-y type thing from Go Nagai. A Reborn fan disc, which is a very unique thing for modern US anime companies to do. Basically, they, couldn't dub the entire 200 whatever episode series because it would never fucking justify the cost. But they grabbed a few fan favorite episodes and one OVA that they hadn't licensed before, dubbed those, and are putting it out on a disc. So that is pretty unique. They also got the OVAs for Kenichi, which nobody knew existed, I guess. They're dubbing that with most of the same cast, obvious exceptions. They got 2 more Lupin the Third specials, which means there's, I think, only 1 unlicensed Lupin the Third anime still remaining.
Yeah, they just keep getting all those, even the shitty ones.
Yeah, of course. I mean, completionism, right? So you'll have, most likely, I would guess, we'll have them all licensed by the end of the year.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah. And they have them like really nicely. I don't have most of them, but if you're a completionist and a collector of that franchise, they have them all very consistent with like, the spine having the special number so you can line them all up and see that you have your complete collection in order. So that's super cool.
Wow. Imagine having a library full of Lupin OVAs that all look the same, and Viz can't even get like the same 5 volumes of a series all pat down looking the same. That's rough.
They've also got God Sigma, Toei's The Little Mermaid, Nanoha A's Fudokoi Alternative. I forget how to pronounce this one. Albegaz. Apparently, it was like big in the Middle East or something. Tonagura, and the live action Lovely Complex, among others.
Nice. I pre-ordered the Berserk.
Me too.
How long has that been out of print? Who released it last? I can't even remember.
That was Media Blasters. I
Whoa.
have their DVD singles secondhand. They appear quite ancient, so I would imagine it's been fairly unavailable, especially on the first-hand market, for quite a while. Because even those, I think I got like, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Jesus. Okay.
On like eBay, yeah.
It's been a minute. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, just a tad.
Yeah.
I feel bad seeing discussions of people that are like, should I get this one or should I get the Blu-ray from 2016? It's like,
Oh,
oh
gosh.
no, you poor soul.
It is exceedingly unfortunate that one is also just named Berserk.
It's better than what they've done with some of the video games and stuff here in the States throughout the years where they keep referencing Berserk as a character.
Right.
Oh.
Berserk and the Band of the Hawk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Berserk Guts Rage. That was the one on the Dreamcast.
Mm.
That's my favorite character, Berserk from Berserk.
Yeah, I don't understand why everyone likes this Guts guy so much when there's Berserk right there.
I know, right?
Quite.
Okay. Next piece of news, we've got a new season of Dorohedoro confirmed. The last one
Oh yeah. My friend is so psyched.
The last one was a TV series that Netflix did their Netflix jail thing on. This one will actually be a original net anime. I don't know that it's confirmed that it's Netflix, but most likely, given their history, they've done that with several other series where the first seasons they've just licensed and dropped all at once well after the Japanese airing, and then later seasons they actually financed and aired as real originals. So I imagine that will be the same case here. Nothing confirmed as far as returning studios and staff and everything, but I would assume it will be the same. It was much the same team that shortly thereafter went on to make the final season of Attack on Titan, and after the 3+ years of that final season of Attack on Titan going on and finally wrapping up, I guess those guys are all free again.
True.
Cool.
It would be pretty wild if they changed teams on us, but
It's already at MAPPA, so if it was at WIP before, it would probably end up at MAPPA. But this one's already at MAPPA.
Yeah.
It has been 4 years.
I love my Satanists, psycho mage people killing each other.
Yeah, I didn't love the adaptation of the first season. I think the content's really good. So, if they could make it a little less CG, I wouldn't hate that, but not really expecting any changes, which I'm fine
No, you
with.
will get more CG.
Yeah, probably.
We're doubling down.
More
Yeah.
CG. I feel like it's one of those situations where they're trying to keep the level of intricacy and detail and like the character designs, and felt the only way they could do that was with CG.
Yeah, it's funny. I guess I could have done a segue there because, Berserk is kind of the same deal, right? It's such a detailed manga art style that you can't really replicate it in 2D, so they tried CG, obviously a lot worse than Dorohedoro, but it, in theory, it could have been easier to do in CG if they didn't completely fuck it up.
Yeah, that's God. There's no more cursed property than Berserk in existence. God, it's like he has the opposite problem of Night Owl, or he always gets the amazing adaptations, and Berserk is just struggling and struggled, and then the author died. So yeah, so cursed into oblivion.
And with that, last piece of
On
news.
that downer.
Yeah. Another returning anime after some half a decade, the Monogatari series. You may have thought it ended. It kind of ended, but it never really ends because Nisio Isin keeps churning out content and keep making those fat stacks. So after he ended the story, a few years later, he went back and made a couple of kind of side story, what he calls seasons. So there's off season and monster season. And then I think he just started another one after a few years off again. So yeah, it's never fucking ending. For all intents and purposes, it ended with, the one called Final Season, with Owari meaning, the end, and Zoku Owari meaning the next end. So, given that it's been 5+ years of anime adaptations, I thought maybe they would only adapt the stuff that actually mattered. But they are coming back because, again, Prince money. So we are now getting the side story seasons with off-season and monster season in 2024, and we are getting, the same team back for the most part. We're getting Shaft and Shinbo and all those guys. Some new co-directors, sub-directors, that kind of stuff, because those have kind of changed out over the years as Shaft has evolved and new people have come in, old people have left for other opportunities. So, yeah.
I can't help but wonder what's worse at actually ending. Any anime or 80s hair metal band tours. Because, man, the amount of times I've seen Kiss and Scorpion and all those bands be like, this is our final tour, our final tour. Fucking make your head spin.
I mean, still think the Eagles has them beat. The Eagles went on like 6 farewell tours.
Yeah.
We did talk about Miyazaki just a few minutes ago. Like,
This is also
worse
true.
than any of these guys.
At least it's like once every 10 years with him or something like that.
Yeah.
We have animes that talk about how they're going to end, and then there's a whole other season like 2 years later, and then they're like, fucking psych.
The thing I love about Monogatari coming back is that it's like the most 2010s to 2015 anime ever.
Mm-hmm.
And like it coming back in the year of our Lord 2024, where like everyone getting a whiff of what this series is about is like immediately trying to like, cancel the main character, and it's like, oh, this should be fun.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I can't wait for modern discussions on this show.
Yeah. And like, not only does it have many very controversial aspects to it, but it's also fucking impossible to get into and follow and figure out what order to watch in. So yeah, that'll be fun.
Oh.
But I'm excited anyway. Hopefully it, is up to par with the previous material. Just as it hadn't been adapted before, it also hasn't been licensed, the novels past final season. They probably will now that they're getting anime adaptations. But, because of that, I have no idea what happens in these upcoming ones. So, yeah, hopefully it is not like a total waste of time, just cash grab. We'll see. Yeah, unless anyone else has any thoughts on any of that stuff, those are all the news stories I had down.
No, that's all. I don't have much else to say other than I guess I also look forward to the memes from the new Monogatari stuff. Because I'm sure those will be great. Even if the show is like complete hot garbage, there'll be memes coming out of it.
Cool.
So we have some new season stuff to discuss, yes?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Alrighty. Well, luckily, I appreciate, Kestrel, you putting the little list together of the shows that everybody has in common, because that makes it a little bit easier to choose what we're going to be discussing. Especially because I'm not caught up on the stuff that's continuing. I've made sure to be up to date with all of the new things.
Yeah, I did
for
the same
episode.
thing. I figured, we've talked at length about how much we love stuff like Free Ren. We might as well give some new shows some shine.
That's
I
kind of what I
guess.
did too.
But we could still talk about Reared, like, don't get me wrong.
Well, it wasn't shine for me, I guess. It was more like I was at the MagFest convention since Wednesday, so
Mm,
I didn't have any time to watch any anime until a couple hours ago
gotcha.
today. So then it turned into, well, what should I prioritize? And then that thought came into my head of, well, we just talked about Freerun, how great it is. So everybody knows how great it is. It'd probably be better for me to be caught up on the stuff that's newer, that's a little more fresh, that we may not gush about, but at least it'll be something new to talk about.
I guess. Yeah, that is usually how we do this.
To be fair, Freerun is probably still more interesting to talk about because I feel like, at least for me personally, nothing so far this season had any like real standout opening episodes.
Hmm.
But we'll get to that in our individual discussions, I guess.
All right, well then why don't we just kick it off with something that we can all talk about and, dive into a little bit of Dungeon Meshi.
Hell yeah, Dungeon Meshi.
Let's do
Which
it.
I do agree with what Kate said in the chat earlier, is that it is just easier to say than delicious in Dungeon, and I normally don't say the Japanese titles of shows, but Dungeon Meshi is just way easier to say.
Yeah.
It is
Very
very bizarre to have Kate and Cain saying the Japanese title.
This is like a 1 in 1,000 times where I opt for that rather than trying to. Because if I call it D&D, I'm just gonna get confused with the D&D that I play usually on Monday nights, and then I'll just be confused.
Yeah, D&D, unfortunately, someone's already laid claim to that one.
But yeah, so I actually want to hear what you have to say about the show so far, Kate, because I know that you were looking forward to it, at least vocally, the most out of everybody here.
Yeah, I think it's funny because like none of you folks are into the manga, which I've been into for a very long time, and I know Kestrel had friends, or some one of you folks had friends that were like, hey, Dungeon Meshi, and it was like, huh, and everybody was like, you all seemed confused, so. It's not that the first 3 episodes of the show have been bad. They've been great, like animation-wise, pacing-wise. It's just that they haven't really gotten to the overall plot, which is like the deeper plot rather than just, monsters of the week to eat. But they'll get there eventually.
I think it is funny how like they open with like the setup for like why they're delving into the dungeon. He's like, I gotta save my sister or whatever. Like she's in that dragon's belly, and then we proceed to like never think about that again for the next 3 episodes.
Yeah, it turns out he doesn't even give 2 fucking shits about her in reality.
I think the one thing with me so far that is hard to grasp about the show, at least world building wise, is like the importance or like the weight of death, because the characters have mentioned several times that like, oh yeah, that was like the first time I died, or like I've died before. And then I'm like, so wait, why does rescuing the sister matter?
I think it's if the dragon shits her out, then they can't bring her back.
Yeah, they don't. Yeah, there's a level of how much of a corpse do you need to have left in order to resurrect somebody? And they were like, if the dragon digests her and there's nothing left, how do you can't, resurrect her because there's nothing left to work from.
I forgot about that detail, you're right.
Yeah, I couldn't remember if they outright said you can't, or if it was one of those, well, no one's tried it before, and maybe he's riding on that at this point. He's like, well, just because it hasn't been done before, it doesn't mean it can't be done.
That seems to be his method for most of the monsters they come across. Like, can you eat it? Well, no one's done it before, but has anyone tried?
How hard could it be? You just cook it and eat it.
Yeah, they
Yes.
got over their early stumbling block with that when Senshi wandered in and was like, no, you got to cook it like this. And then
Yeah.
he was like, I bow down at your feet, good sir. You've shown me the way.
Senshi, my king.
Yeah, they're like, we should try to figure out how to cook monsters. And then he shows up and he's like, hi, I'm an expert at cooking monsters. And they're like, cool, we never have to think again.
Yep. Nope. We just gotta kill. Then you can do your stir frying and your boiling and your whatnots.
Just progress onward, freak out Marcel, eat the thing, progress onward. At least early.
I'm curious, Kestrel, because you have clearly watched the most shows out of any of us this season, and Dungeon Meshi it was your last show, and now in your updated list, it's your second to last out of 19.
Mhm.
I guess I'm just curious, do you not like it, or is it not living up to what you expected it to be?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely heard very good things about the manga, and people put a certain level of like prestige on Trigger projects. I feel like, Trigger's best days are at Gynax. I think I think a few of their projects are like, yeah, this is a very impressive piece of production quality, but shows like this, adaptations that aren't Teamy Maishi, especially when all the big names are busy with something else, they're nothing special. So, I feel like it got a lot of hype. And yeah, so far with these 3 episodes, I've just been like, okay, what's the point? And I understand that the content gets much better, and I'm sure it will progress much more in my rankings as it does. But so far, it's just like, yeah, I don't really care about anything yet.
I'm having the sort of an opposite reaction in that, like, nothing, like you said, nothing's really happened too much, but like for whatever reason, I don't really mind for this show. I think I'm a little different in that I also don't think, Trigger have really put anything out prestige since, like, I mean, I think they literally like peaked at the beginning with like Kill la Kill, and it's been kind of just like middling since then. I really like A Little Witch Academia as well, but
Yeah, that's fucking right. You say that.
yeah, sorry,
And
I
to
gotta give them.
defend DJ's honor, remember that Cyberpunk Edge Runners did just come out a year and a half ago.
That's true, and
Yeah,
that
that's
was
Trigger
amazing
as well.
Yeah,
How quickly you forget.
I did. I did quickly forget, and that was one of my favorite animes as well from the last year. But I don't know. I kind of don't mind the like wanderiness of the story so far, and I feel like episode 3 specifically like really sold it for me in that it was the episode that made me think like, oh, this is like why Trigger is doing this show. I feel like the 3rd episode had the most like dynamic shots and animation, and just overall the not only was like them cooking food, like that part's always been enjoyable, but I feel like the thought process going into the monsters that they're eating for the 3rd episode, I thought was like especially neat and unique, and I feel like that's something that I hope will carry a lot more in the show, is that the way in that the monsters like physiology is in the show, and like why it makes sense that they can eat them, is really the big selling point for me so far, and I think the 3rd episode was the best example of that.
I'm going to say something controversial. And again, I like this show. I'm going to keep watching. I'm sure it'll get much better. I think so far, it feels like the like 2-minute omake bits at the end of a more interesting series, where they're like, and what if we ate the monsters and blah, blah, blah. Just spread out across 24 minutes a week.
That's fair. Some people love those 2-minute bits afterwards. Like,
I mean, they're good, but they're 2 minutes. No, I like the show. It's not wowing me yet. And I'm sure it will improve. And still, it's still a good production. It's not bad by any means. It's just, all the people that make Trigger are off fucking around with panty and stocking. So they got like the B or C team here.
I really don't want them to go full blown Trigger on this series.
Mhm.
Like the author is very realistic with her nudity, which is something that Trigger is really not known for.
What do you mean?
I like how, you know, it's coming out weekly, and even from episode 1, where 3 episodes in, we've had no real indication of where this is going. But even from episode 1, Netflix is like, yeah, this is a TVMA for nudity.
Yeah, I saw that. It was like nudity, and I'm like, I guess we're just on. It's like a ticking time bomb now.
Yeah, they know what's coming.
It's Senshi's one upskirt.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, I will say Netflix nudity ratings are kind of fucking bizarre because they had that for Pluto, and I
That's
watched the
true.
whole series twice all the way through, and the second time I was trying to figure out, like, what the fuck is the nudity thing for? Paying super close attention. The only thing I could get was at the beginning of one of the later episodes, they have, like, a shot of a bunch of nude people from, like, the shoulder up. Shows absolutely nothing. But just like, you know,
But it's implied. They're
yeah,
naked.
it's just like, you know, the image of humanity. It's not like actual human beings standing around being naked. It's just like, oh, these are, you know, what all of the human population looks like spread out. And apparently that was enough for them to put a nudity warning on there. So, yeah.
It was
They
all
were-
the robot nudity, all those
They-
bare wires and cables.
Yeah, all the old school robots, yeah.
I agree with Kate though that like I don't think this show is meant for someone like Imaishi, so it kind of makes
Yeah.
sense that it's a lot more restrained than other Trigger shows.
Like
But-
really, when like Trigger has almost never done adaptations, and when they do, so far they've been completely unremarkable. You know, Cyberpunk Edge Runners doesn't count because it's a completely original story. But if they're just like straight up adapting a manga, yeah, that's not really the point of their style. The point of their style is to, you know, be completely creative and their own crazy style from scratch. So if they have source material to work off of, then yeah, I agree. No need to make it Imaishi-ish or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
I felt the third episode had the most, at this point, like trigger-y moments. And by that, I mean their art style with everyone having like distorted features depending on what scene we're looking at.
Right.
Mhm.
Like the little flashback when,
that was neat.
yeah, with Leos and they're all just like kids running with the egg sack or nest or
Egg
whatever
on
it
a
was.
stick. Yeah.
Yeah, and their faces are just like gelatin moving around. I was like, "Oh, that's right. This is a Trigger show." I forgot up to now because I felt their style was relatively restrained for those first two. Like the general art feel of how they design faces, like their philosophy behind faces and what features are more pronounced and given like sharper lines or different shading on their faces that you can always tell when looking at Trigger stuff was there, but the animation wasn't always. And the third episode felt the most like it thus far, which was refreshing to see.
Yeah, I kind of like the transition of like the living armors being like very meticulously and like animated and weighty, and then when you find out like what is underneath the armor, they get kind of like sillier in their movements when they're like falling apart and trying to piece themselves back together. That felt really like the character animation really stepped up that episode.
Yeah, I mean, that episode was certainly what made it not be my bottom show anymore. So I appreciate it heading in the right direction at least.
Yeah, it's fine. I think as Chris and I both put it in the chat, like it's cute, it's a fun show, but yeah, waiting for it to do something to cement itself a little bit more in my memory or the zeitgeist or whatever, rather than a monster of the week type thing, especially because the cooking elements don't quite work for me in the same way they would for other shows, because these aren't things you can actually eat, so I don't feel like any of them look particularly delicious in the same way that when other shows cook human food, then I'm like, oh, those those Ghibli eggs look really good, or the Food Wars rice bowls with the meat on top looks pretty amazing, but I can't really get behind giant red scorpions
True.
in that way. Now it's entertaining and funny, especially how everyone is a mix between disgusted or almost erotically charged by eating them. But yeah, that food looks really good, I would eat it, doesn't quite work for me in this show, so that doesn't hit with the full effect.
Just for a small
It's
tangent.
heading in a good direction.
Just for a
Wait.
small tangent off of that, I saw The Boy and the Heron again the other day. There was a special screening for it, and they had like an after party thing, and they made like food from the movie. So they had like the giant slices of bread with like jam and honey and stuff. Yeah. Anyway. that was
So
fun.
you're telling me Miyazaki can't retire because what would all the anime aesthetic Twitter accounts say when they can't say, "Look at this Ghibli food, doesn't it look amazing?"
Yeah, right. Well, we just need another season of March Comes In Like a Lion for that.
Ooh. God
Speaking
damn, I
of
just need that
Shaft
in
returning
general.
to old properties, yeah. Get on that Shaft.
True.
I feel like if there's one thing, if there's two things, I'll say, I guess, that all anime do a pretty good job at, it's making food look good. I don't really think that's significant to any one studio. Some are better than others, like Ghibli, but man, anime artists just love drawing food in the same way that they really love drawing cars.
Mm.
Like, you
Or
could just be watching a slice of life that has nothing to do with cars, and then someone's gonna roll up in like a 1/1 scale, perfectly articulated 2003 Honda Civic or something.
Yeah, but now more and more often nowadays they're like CG.
Yeah, that's
That
like the
kinda
real
takes
turn
off.
of the century's like biggest flaw. CG
Mhm.
cars.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
it's
mean,
like
I'd take CG cars over CG characters.
it's true. Or CG horses. Oh my god.
Oh no.
Yeah.
JoJo Part 7, I'm so scared.
Oh no. I mean, David hasn't done much CG, have they?
They haven't, but like uh I don't know, like 40 episodes of straight horsing around. It's gonna be tough.
I feel like they've kept JoJo just so flat, like absurdly flat. They have to stick with that.
Yeah. We'll
I
see.
just let's fucking get that announcement already. Come on, guys. Where's my
real.
steel ball run?
And latest yeah, well, there was CG horses in something I watched this week, so
Oh no.
Yeah,
But yeah.
didn't DJ have something to say about this too?
Oh, true.
Oh.
Let's have Kate read this one since this is her show. Her show being Dungeon Machine, not the podcast.
I can do this without losing this thing. Yeah, okay. The DJ says another show full of tropey fantasy trope characters where they do tropey fantasy stuff. I'm not sure if the whole point is just splicing this together with a cooking anime yet, or if there's going to be more to it, but it's fun so far. I can see it getting old though.
Damn.
Yep.
No love for the normal high fantasy stuff.
It's like it's high fantasy. Yeah, it's DJ. You're making a video game. It's a fucking video. Come on, man.
It is funny that the one like fantasy anime that's not like video game related or isekai or anything is the one that most closely follows the rules of video games, to the point that like death isn't a thing because you can just bring people back to life.
Yeah, I'm gonna spoil on one thing. The bringing people back to life thing only works in the dungeon. Like, it's not a worldwide thing. It's like that location specifically. And they are aware of that. So, like, when they were talking about, like, resurrecting people, they would have brought them back up to, like, that first floor where everybody was, like, hanging out.
Gotcha.
And, like, probably would have done it there. At least from what I remember.
I did think that was a cool little aspect where they were talking about how that used to be a church and a graveyard, and now people just hang out and it's just a giant fucking flea market.
Yeah, it's funny because they're dropping an awful lot of like background stuff, and nobody watching the show casually is picking up on like anything they're dropping down, like just like world building wise. Like they bring
Yeah.
up things like at the very beginning of the episode, they're like, yeah, this guy climbed out of this collapsed tunnel system. It was all like, my kingdom, it is yours if you can defeat the thing at the dungeon master, basically, and then turned to dust and blew away in the wind. And that's like the opening of episode 1. And of course, nobody remembers what the opening of episode 1 is for anything. So yeah, so like it's like, oh, okay, that's interesting. And then the other thing, every now and then they'll casually drop like, yeah, we're on floor 3 heading downward into towers of this buried underground castle. That's weird, but that's what we're doing.
I need the flavor text to be color coded so I know it's important for the future.
I mean, it's just like, unless you're paying attention, it's like, it's only until later where it's like, oh yeah, okay, now I'm kind of getting it. A couple more episodes still, touch on that stuff again in an interesting way. But
I think that's what I'm also most looking forward to, aside from the monster fry of the week stuff, is that like each episode we'll get more info on the monsters and the dungeon, and I think
And the
as we
meshy.
get and the meshies
it's all about the
and the
meshies.
deliciousness, I think the deeper we get, the more I'll appreciate the show for its world building aspects. So I think this one, it's hard to judge 2-3 episodes in. I feel like once we get halfway through, we'll have a better understanding of how much we like it.
I was happy to see the gnarly like dudes getting sorted through the throat and stuff in episode 3, because I'm like, okay,
I didn't expect
cool.
that.
I'm all like, that's gonna be a shock to a few people, and then it's like, oh good, because that means they won't shy away from some really kind of fucked up shit later on. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Like you thought some of the stuff going on right now was absurd. Wait till you see where this goes.
Yeah, this is one that I like bought volume 1 like a year ago and never got around to it. So like I kind of wish I was up on the source material before this one, but it's fun just kind of wandering along with them until shit hits a fan.
Well, you can read that volume 1 now because they've covered all of it.
That's true. Yeah.
First 3 episodes covered all of volume 1 stuff.
I've been meaning to read the manga for a while.
Yeah. They always had a Right Stuff sale when they did like the 4 bundles, and I like was always hovering over like, should I just get like the first 12 dungeon meshies for like a third of the price?
Right.
I mean, the whole series is only 14 volumes long, so the last 2 volumes just haven't come out yet in here.
Oh, it's complete?
It's completed?
Yeah, it's complete.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, it just, the anime and the manga ended just in time for Baldur's Gate 3 to come out. That was convenient. And the last 2 volumes of the collected volumes were released in Japan at the same time, like literally this month, I think, at the beginning of this month. So, yeah, so we've got a bit of delay here. I think Yen's releasing the volume 13 sometime in the spring, and then volume 14 like August, and then we'll be complete here too. So
Nice.
That's like that one meme that's been going around. It's like Dungeon Meshi died 2023, Baldur's Gate born 2023. Welcome back, Dungeon Meshi.
yeah, she's the author's very into Baldur's Gate, so I hope she's been having fun with Baldur's Gate 3. I want to see her fan art of Baldur's Gate 3. She did custom portraits basically for all the characters in Baldur's Gate 1 and 2. Like she drew like all the main characters in both of those games in her style. So I really want to see her do that for Baldur's Gate 3.
I think it's safe to say that women are kind of carrying fantasy anime and manga right now.
Yeah.
I'm kind of spoiled on good fantasy anime right now.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take it.
Yeah, exactly. It's been too long.
Yeah.
Fantasy anime that doesn't have a video game isekai twist, or someone has a smartphone, or anything like that.
Well, there is one other one in 3 of our lists that kind of does do that though.
I have a question for you though, Cain. Is it wrong to cook up monsters in the dungeon?
Not if they're this good. I would eat some of that shit for sure. It may not look delicious to me in the human world, but if we were in that world and you were like, here's some weird armor mollusks, I'd be like, yeah, okay. Fuck it.
I'd be so down.
I'd eat the cockatrice. That seems like good eating. Didn't seem that out there.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, like, the scorpions are just lobsters. The whatever living armor are just oysters. It's all we can make connections.
Yeah. But yeah, the slimes were just jellies.
Yeah, it's like the One Piece Sanji cooking book. They have, like dragons and stuff in that, and you just replace it with your local non-dragon meat that is close enough. And actually, there's another show 1 year ago, actually. It was a MAPPA show, the Campfire Cooking Absurd Skill, whatever show. I reviewed the whole thing. I don't even remember the title. But that was the same kind of deal. It was an isekai version of this. So you had that perspective of like, oh, this monster is basically just like this thing from the real world. So we'll cook it like this, and it'll be like tonkatsu, whatever.
Well, this made me have an epiphany because like I've always wanted there to be like a Monster Hunter anime, but now I don't want it to be like about what they do normally in the games. I want it to be about the cat chefs making food out of the monsters.
Oh, the
man.
Palicos?
The Palico, like follow the Palico chef making all his meals. Oh man. That'd be good for like a short show.
Alrighty, so we've already gone off on a few different tangents involving this show, so that may be a sign that it's time to move on until we can get a little bit more
Delicious.
meat on this show, a little more meat on the bone, so to speak. So, how about we'll move on to another one that most of us are watching, and I'm in the same spot with this as Kestrel was with Dungeon Meshi. And that's Solo Leveling. So, I guess before I talk about how I feel about the show, I'd want to hear, and I'm assuming this is you and Kestrel Bran, but what do you think of the show, and how does it stand out from the zillions of others of shows that basically do this exact same thing?
I'll be honest, I'm probably closer to your end of it because I'm in the same boat of like, it doesn't feel like it's really doing anything different. And maybe because it's a webcomic, that's like a big reason of why it has such a moniker that it does. But, yeah, so far, I mean, really like edgy, crazy beginning, like, I don't know. I'm not really sold so far on the premise of it at all. I guess I was I was entertained by like how like violent it got right before like the big reset point of the show. But besides that, it does feel very generic. I think at the very least, who is it? A1 Pictures. It looks good. I think it's looking really solid so far visually. So I feel like that is going to carry a lot of it for me. And I'm mainly watching it because similar to Kestrel with Dungeon Meshi, I've just heard so much hype about this property. So
yeah,
give it a shot.
That's how I landed on this too, is that it showed up in my news feed on my phone on several occasions leading up to the season starting, and all the articles were like, Solo Leveling is doing something that nobody's ever done before. One episode in, Solo Leveling is revolutionizing this anime genre, and I was like, okay, that's a lot of clickbait, but I'll watch it because maybe it is doing something a little different, or it's just an exemplary piece of the genre or subgenre that it's sitting in.
I don't know.
And
I think we're getting gaslit.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure we got clickbaited and then gaslit hard.
Like, as I'm hearing the same thing where it's like, oh, episode 3 is when solo leveling like really shows you the kind of show it is, and like it's doing things that have never been done before. And then I watch the 3rd episode today or yesterday, and it's like, all right, he got to the point where he's not a scrub anymore, and now he can level up his abilities. I'm like, okay.
You know what I thought about? I was like, we're just watching a prequel to One Punch Man.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, because after 3 episodes, which I heard that these 3 were originally put together as like a movie, which is why the first episode kind of sucks ass.
Yeah, the first episode I really didn't like that much.
Yeah, apparently the first 3 were like packaged together in a movie at first or something like that, so that you could get the whole experience at once rather than waiting a week between these like weird disjointed pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But those were the vibes that I was getting, which was, yeah, we're just gonna watch him get strong. And then I have a bad feeling that the show is going to go in a direction where every side character we meet from now on is going to be only important for the episode they're in. He's going to surpass them with his very unique ability to level up. And then they're going to be forgotten about forever, because why would he need them anymore at that point when he's surpassed their level? It's going to be like what happens in Baki every time a main character loses, where they just disappear off the face of the planet because now there's someone stronger than that person. But yeah, so it is okay. Like you said, it looks good. It was very gory in the beginning, so I was getting some edgy like mid 2000s feel out of it, where that is what was revolutionary, is that they're not shying away from people getting chopped in half.
Yeah, or him being like, I feel like it would have been good to package the first 2 episodes together where like the dungeon is fucking everyone up, and he's like on death's door, and he's like, you know what? Why do I care about other people? Like, they all suck. Like, I should be a little more self-serving. Like, I wish they all died instead of me. And then it like cuts and does the like, the reset point. I feel like that as like a 1-2 would have been a much better initial draw. But yeah, the first episode for me, I'm glad I carried it through the first 3 at least, because it got better for sure, but yeah, still kind of middle of the road.
It did 100% get better after the first one. The thing I'm waiting for too is I still haven't figured out exactly yet in this universe how much extra money he was making as a shitty hunter than just being like a waiter at a restaurant. Because he talks about how he needed all this money for his mom's infinite hospital bill, because apparently she's fucking in a super coma.
Yeah.
And to put his sister through school. But it was hinted at that he was trying to do construction work, but then decided that was bullshit and decided to become a hunter. But he's such a dog shit hunter. Like, how much money was he really making?
It really didn't make sense too, because the way the universe is set up, it's like once you have your skill level, you can't get any higher than that. And it's like,
I knew that was fucking bullshit. Like 10
and I'm like,
seconds.
well, he's already at the bottom of the barrel. You're right though. Like, why is he doing it? He's clearly not built for this.
He's not built for it. He's going through intense pain and injuries and his own hospital bills, by the way, to deal with this, when he could just, I don't know, become a CPA. Like, I don't know, man. Do something other than this, because this ain't working out.
He seems pretty smart the way he was figuring out the dungeon. He could get he could get a better job.
Yeah, that should be the title of the episode. I don't know, man. Get a better job. So I know, Kestrel, you rated this pretty quickly, so maybe we're just troglodytes over here.
So I have read, I don't know how many volumes of the manga. I think all the ones that had come out, at least as of a few months ago.
Well, this is technically a manhwa, isn't it, or something?
Yeah. That's actually the only one that I own of any manhwa.
I'm just going to savor the fact that I actually you for the first time in my entire life.
Nice. Um, yeah, so that's I think you guys aren't wrong that it's not like doing anything super revolutionary. Um, it's just kind of a solid execution of these ideas, and the art is really beautiful in the original. Unfortunately, the artist passed away at a very young age, not too long ago. I think he did complete the series. Um, but yeah, and so the anime is, kind of carrying that through with a very strong production from A1 Pictures and, really great Sawano score and everything. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you don't feel it, like I like the places that the plot goes. It doesn't do anything that I find like really cringy in this kind of genre. I think I've liked it a little bit less as it's gone on after the first few volumes were kind of like the height of my enthusiasm. But it was probably just that it didn't do anything particularly new after that point, so I kind of knew what to expect. So yeah, I mean, I think it has some good things in store, but nothing that's probably going to blow you away if you were this down on the first few.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna stick with it just because it's such a light season for me, anyways. But like I mentioned earlier, I feel like this season in particular is just having a problem with like the initial hook. I feel like a lot of these shows that are adaptations, most of the fans hyping it up are like, "Oh, just wait till it gets to that good part."
Mhm.
And it's like, okay, I mean, I'll stick through it, but I feel like A1 Pictures is usually kind of a toss up with the visuals. So at the very least, uh, I'll dap them up on that one. It looks better than Mashal.
Yes, this is certainly their A1 team.
Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely does look better than Mashal, which, I mean, why don't we just jump in talking about Mashal?
From B2 Pictures.
Yeah. All of the Mashal budget went into the hiring Creepy Nuts to drop a banger on them. I haven't even watched this week's episode, and the OP is stuck in my head. That's how much staying power it has.
I just finished watching it essentially before coming up here to record because I wanted to be ahead. We are definitely getting a lot of lore drop on us right before a tournament arc, apparently. Which I'm excited for the tournament arc. Like, this show is another one that is kind of middling for me, and I kept watching it because it's light, and I've already watched 12 episodes of it already, so might as well keep going. But
Yeah.
it's definitely at its weakest. This show is at its most weakest when it's not Mashal when he's not dunking on wizards and shit. The show really doesn't have a leg to stand on when he's not doing ridiculous, superhero shit. And at this point in the tournament arc and all of the hate that he's been getting, he's just punching bigots, which is what I'm really excited about. Like all these people who are telling him he's less than human and his existence shouldn't be allowed in the world, and he's just gonna fucking pile drive them into the core of the earth. Like,
yeah, I love that he takes it all with a straight face too. Like any other protagonist would be like, "Oh, I'm not worthless," and he's just like, "Yeah, okay. How about I flex on you real quick?"
Can I spoil you for the newest episode on a very slight spoiler?
Oh yeah, I read the whole manga.
Oh, because he literally does flex at the end of the episode. When someone shits on him, he takes off his shirt and flexes and then talks to his muscles for encouragement. Which I thought was hysterical because it was the most uptight of all those wizardy assholes. And in his response, rather than even talking to the wizard guy directly, he takes off his shirt and flexes and then just walks past him.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what I come here for.
Yeah. Even after finishing the entire manga, I still stand by the fact that MASH is an A tier character in like a C tier show. And I feel like this season is really going to be I feel like whether people continue if it keeps getting adaptations, which I mean, this one turned around pretty fast. I assume they're gonna maybe try to adapt it all since it's done. But I think by the end of this season, people will know if they want to stick with it or not, because this is the part of the story where it starts to be a little less battle shonen parody and more just like straight up battle shonen. And for a lot of people, I'm sure there's plenty of people that are like, hell yeah, he's just going to beat people up the whole time. That's great. But I feel like a lot of the comedy elements kind of get pushed to the wayside at moments, especially when it's a fight that MASH isn't involved in it, and we get some of the side characters like Finn or Dot in the spotlight. So I think that'll be a tipping point for some people. But like I said, whenever MASH is on screen, it's gold. So that's good enough for me.
Yeah, whenever MASH is not on screen, all the other characters should be asking, "Where's MASH?"
They really should be.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of if any of the others are even kind of close. I like the Syscon dude.
I was just gonna say this show.
Let's take that and quote out of context.
Yeah,
The thing I never thought I'd hear Cain say.
I think
this
he's funny because it's such a weird. I guess because he is also so strong, but everybody only knows him as the Syscon guy, and he doesn't even deny it. I think that's what I find funny is that he doesn't even try to be like, no, I just care about her. He's like, yeah, all right, fine.
Yeah, and MASH will openly call him that too. He's just like, oh, hey, it's Syscon.
And he doesn't do anything about it. He's so strong, but he's just, yep, you got me.
This show does have it is unique in that it is one of the few characters that is that archetype that I don't immediately cringe at, because he just plays it straight. He's unashamed. And it's not really like sexualized either. He's just like it's just so plain, so straight that it's just like a stupid bit.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say as well. Bran was that he plays it so straight and it's not like sexualized or creepy at all. He just really it's sort of like Yuri and Yor a little bit, where that's a little bit more on the ridiculous side. But it is always funny when Yuri eats Yor's horrible cooking and vomits while saying it's great.
Yeah.
Like it's played comedically without getting into really creepy territory. Yeah, he's about the only other character that I probably give any of a shit about.
Yeah. I feel like the rest of the main cast aren't really great. I mean, Finn, depending on if you like the straight man bit. But besides that, I think it really is going to come down to also like the antagonists as they show up. Like, I think the guy that shows up at the end of the second episode, the orca guy. That
you mean the music piano man?
Yeah, that dude.
Margaret.
Margaret.
Whatever.
Yeah, I think it's gonna come down to those people being the other entertaining factors.
I like how everyone has these lines or simple designs on their face like a zigzag, and he has a whole ass treble clef over his eyeball. Like, how did he make that shit happen? Everyone else just has a 45-degree angle or like two curly lines, and he has a very intricate design over his face. I want to believe that it was actually a small line and he just got a tattoo with the rest of it.
I feel like that feels in character.
His power is cool though in that universe, like it being sort of musical note based. It isn't really musicality, but he blasts quarter notes at you, which is fun.
Yeah, I think they chose the right voice actor for this kind of character too.
Can't go wrong with Koyasu.
No.
Kestrel, what do you think? Brandon and I have been blabbing about this for a while now.
Yeah, I mostly agree with you guys. I don't have many more thoughts than I did on the first season. It's definitely a fun show when MASH is around, being deadpan and, beating up bigots and just being like a complete anomaly in this world that has such serious standards. And yeah, some of the supporting cast has become pretty fun too, as mentioned. So I can get past the kind of shit production quality and kind of some of the other mediocre aspects to it. I am curious to see how I feel about a tournament arc where MASH may not always be around and the comedy may not always be at the forefront, because that does seem like turning this into a generic battle shonen, especially with the quality of adaptation it's getting, is not that promising. But it could surprise me still.
Isn't that what happens to a lot of these?
Yeah.
Like they eventually have to do world building, and it always becomes a little more serious because it turns out a story needs to be told and not just a couple of jokes for a few episodes.
I mean, at the end of the day, every shonen manga for the past 40 years has been aping Dragon Ball. No pun intended. So, Dragon Ball established the formula of start off as pure gag and end up as, pure serious battle shonen. So, it's not surprising to see that sort of trajectory.
I will give MASH the props though, because the series, despite its like ups and downs of how much the comedy is like at the forefront, it does maintain it throughout to some level, and by the end it's like very clearly still a comedy action manga by the very end. So it's not going to fully go away. It'll just vary in its, I guess, ability to make people laugh.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Gintama is one of my favorite series of all time. And as it goes on, like, it does get into arcs where it's like, okay, we're going to be serious now. We're going to tell a real story. And it does that remarkably well. And then, when the tension lifts up, it's like, all right, we're back to fucking around, guys. And it's hilarious again. So it can work.
Unfortunately,
those things are not Gintama.
I was going to say, unfortunately, Mashal never reaches the level of Gintama.
Yeah.
But
certainly nothing about Mashal has ever been nearly as funny as nearly every episode of Gintama's 370 whatever episodes.
No, but Mash doing the Luffy shtick of punching celestial dragons, like,
yes,
more of that I will take.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I guess to be fair, having little notes of seriousness in your comedy can be beneficial because it can ground it and make you care about the characters more, because it can be hard to care about characters long term when everybody's just a big bunch of gags, unless it's a show like Asobi Asobase or something, where the entire idea of the show is an enormous meme gag. So when you're trying to do something like this instead of a world that has stakes and rules and a social hierarchy and order, having those little pockets of seriousness can help you establish a personal connection with characters, so that when they do something funny, it can feel even more humorous because you feel like you know them at this point. It's just, it's a delicate balance you have to undertake, so that you don't just go straight into full serious and then ditch the comedy, and now the full seriousness isn't very good either, or the characters haven't been successfully prepared on the storyboards to shoulder that burden.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think at the sorry, what I was saying about Gintama, like that, doing that really elevates it beyond just being like the funniest anime comedy. It just makes it like an all-around masterpiece. But yeah, you definitely have to have your dramatic writing chops down as well. Like if it is, a serious story that I can actually get invested in, absolutely, because I'm not invested in the characters now. They're just gags to me. So I would love to, actually have a reason to care about them, in addition to being able to laugh at them, because, just laughing for a long-running shonen series can't carry it that far. But if it is just going from pure gags to generic punchies and there's no like actual good dramatic character writing, then that's not good either. So yeah, we'll see what kind of balance it strikes.
Yeah, and I think that's a common pitfall for a series that runs in Weekly Shonen Jump, is like they have to keep the reader's attention somehow, and how do most mangas in that magazine do that. They make guys fight each other.
Yep.
And but like you said, there's always room to make that compelling narrative underneath. And I think a lot of people don't give a series like One Punch Man that credit because like that shows you that they can manage to take a character who literally one punches everything and like give you some kind of narrative depth behind that character. It can be done. You just gotta be good at doing it, and One most certainly is good at doing that.
And if there's anyone that this dude fucking rips off on a daily basis, it's One. So let's see how he pulls that off.
That's for sure. Just as another side note, because it wasn't like actually newsworthy, I saw that it was revealed recently that One, Tatsuki Fujimoto, and Sui Ishida of Tokyo Ghoul fame were all like friends on like some kind of like internet board like 10 years ago, and they would apparently like bounce ideas and stuff off each other and just draw things for each other.
I feel like Fujimoto has had just like the craziest circle of artists throughout his career too, because the dude's like 30, and he like 5 of the biggest mangaka to come out of the past like 5-10 years have been his assistant.
Yeah,
crazy.
It's nuts.
I just want to point out that within an hour of this episode, we had Cain using Japanese titles, actuallying me, and saying that he likes the Syscon character. So, breaking boundaries in this episode.
Actually is probably the highlight of my week.
Wow.
He's an imposter.
Yeah. I told you this is just the AI Cain.
Might be.
I mean, he literally has an identical twin brother, so,
This is true.
Oh my god.
One of his New Year's resolutions this year was to watch more anime, and I was like, boy, howdy. You came to the right place. Alright, so that's Mashal, that's Delicious in Dungeon, Solo Leveling. Like I'd mentioned earlier, I wasn't caught up with Freerun or Apothecary Diaries, but I am watching them. So I don't know if there's much we can really talk about with those, since we did just cover them recently. But if you wanted to go over them a little bit, we can touch up. But then there's also a couple shows like on Dead Unlock that 2 of you are watching. I'm assuming it's Kestrel and Bran.
Mm-hmm.
So we could bounce into there. What are you thinking? Excellent. A resounding choice.
Yeah, I mean, Undead Unluck is another one from last season. We haven't really talked about it yet. Freerun is still peak art. I don't know if there's much more to say about it right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's what it appears to be, and that's what I was assuming you were going to say, is it's still really good, it's still peak art, music, everything, no notes, moving forward.
No notes. That's probably the best descriptor. I'd like to, just for the sake of spotlighting some new stuff, just talk real quick about Metallic Rouge. Yeah. And I know DJ also gave us a little note on that, so I'll read that real quick.
There you go.
He says, I'm watching a mech show for now. I like the dark cyberpunk feel of the show and consistently enjoy anything where non-humans start becoming like humans. But so far, this just feels like a mediocre version of Vivi made by mech fans. But Rouge is cool, and I'll continue to watch the show for her. It's funny because the way DJ spells it is Rogue, and literally until the show, I was watching the show and they say her name is Rouge, I like looked at the title a little harder. I was like, oh, that is Rouge. That is not Rogue. So
I see that even on your list you have it as Metallic Rogue.
Yeah, so see, it's very easily to fuck up. But
is it a Metallic roguelike at least?
It, in a way, I will say my elevator pitch for what this show is it's Blade Runner for tokusatsu fans,
Mm.
and it's Bones, and I think it's made by the Carol and Tuesday writer is
Yes.
the same person, but I think it's
Or
Bones
director,
is like
right?
or the director, yes, and they're it's like the 25th anniversary project for Bones too, so
Mhm.
I feel like this show's worth watching just because it's like one of the prestige studios in anime doing an original non-adaptation show, and it's interesting so far. Only 2 episodes out right now, but it has that, like DJ said, that cyberpunk feel, and it's definitely very homage to a like a Kamen Rider or a Garo type of feel to the robots of it. And there's definitely some. It's going to be topical because of AI and machines and stuff, but there's definitely also a mystery at play with the story setup. So I think out of all the shows, similarly, it didn't have like a wow me moment for the first 2 episodes, but I think it is the one that has the highest potential to like be something like really special that differentiates itself from the onslaught of isekai that you could be watching this season. But yeah.
Yeah, and it
Really
looks like the writer is actually the Razafon guy, to go back to the early
Oh,
days of Bones
Oh.
and their original series.
wow. Yeah. I would definitely. That's the thing is like similar like Razefan. It's like you could call it a mech show, but it's more like mechs are being used to like deploy the drama of it. But no, yeah, I think it's a neat premise so far, and like the show looks really good. Um, yeah, that's all I really had to say about it. I think it's one worth keeping an eye on since original anime are hard to come by nowadays.
Yeah.
This is true. And Kestrel, you're watching it as well?
I'm not, no.
Okay, it's
the
Brandon
DJ.
DJ.
Yeah.
That's right. My
Which I was
mistake.
surprised this wasn't on your list, Kestrel, just because
Yeah.
lots of other stuff on there. Like
I don't know. I haven't really heard anything good about it yet, and it seems like the kind of thing that is ambitious enough that if it's not really good, I'm going to be really disappointed.
that's fair. It is
So,
most definitely flying under the radar. I have not heard a single person talking about it online. So
yeah. Like a lot of conventions the past year, they've been like really hyping it up. So when it came out and I heard like radio silence, I was like, maybe I don't care that much right now. I'll see how people respond.
yeah, I think I'm starting to sound like a broken record, but it's a show that a few more episodes in, maybe we'll have a better idea if we're gonna really like it or not.
I will mention I am watching another original series this season, which is Bucchigiri or Bucchigiri. Has a question
So
mark.
those question and exclamation marks are supposed to be there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Precisely one of each. It's not one of those like 8 exclamation point type shows. But yeah, it is an original from MAPPA, directed and created by Hiroko Utsumi, who was the director of the first 2 seasons of Free, Banana Fish, and the director and creator of Skate the Infinity. And yeah, it's a real fucking wacky kind of like 90s delinquent show with a total like simp pervert, but not like I don't know. He's endearing because he's not like a sex pest. He just is a horny like 15-year-old boy who really wants to get laid. So he's kind of on the fine line there, but so far he's okay. And yeah, he's kind of like in this environment of, everyone is a giant, like 35-year-old high schooler in
Hell
one of
yeah.
these two gangs. And yeah, and he gets a super magical power from an Arabian genie who really wants him to want to get stronger, but every time he has his passionate declaration of what he wants in life, he's just like, I want to get laid. And then the genie's like, what the fuck, dude? So yeah, he does that and puts big like fist to the North Star kind of craters in people's chests by punching them. And then the genie leaves and he gets his ass kicked. And he, like a lot of other of Utsumi's works, all the boys kind of have a homoerotic tension going on.
Oh yeah.
So that's kind of developing more and more as it goes on. Only 2 episodes have aired, so we're
Wow,
still
so it must be really developing then.
yeah. Like, by the end of the first episode, the antagonist of the first episode had fallen in love with the protagonist because he got his ass beat by him, and he's like, you punched a hole in my chest. I'm in love with you forever now. So that's kind of show it is.
We're Tenchi Muyoing this bitch. Let's go.
So yeah, it's a very bizarre series. I'm very curious to see if it turns into anything that I can take like even a little bit seriously. Pretty good production values.
I dig the retro vibes. I feel like that's one on the fringe for me where like if I hear good things about it eventually I might pick it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I am curious to see if it turns into anything real.
Mm-hmm. Another one I had some fringe curiosity about that I have seen a little discussion online was A Sign of Affection.
Yeah.
Do you have anything you want to say about that? Because that one definitely piqued my interest a little bit.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a cute romance about a deaf protagonist and a guy who's kind of, I don't know, very culturally dissonant even for, the divide between a deaf and hearing person trying to understand each other, just from having spent like so much of his life overseas and consuming other cultures. He's kind of outside of the normal Japanese archetype. So yeah, it's just kind of like the two of them learning to understand each other's world and falling in love and love triangles forming from that. Yeah, it's very cute. Not a lot. I mean, it's certainly not like the emotional depth of A Silent Voice or anything like that. It's pretty surface level so far, but it seems to have the kind of respectful perspective on disability. So yeah, I appreciate it.
Okay. Haven't had a good feel-good romance in my watch list for a while, so might pick that up.
Yeah.
I think Chris said that he was watching this too, and he was enjoying it.
I believe that's true.
All right. Anyone else want to touch on the other fringe stuff that no one else is watching? Did you have any Mao Mao opinions, Cain? Or
I haven't seen the newest episode, but much like with Freerun, I'm still liking where we're going with it. It's nice to see Mao Mao back into the palace and everything, doing, her shtick of mystery solving and all of that.
Mao Mao Apothecary Diaries? Sorry.
Yes. That's just the protagonist's name.
I don't know which show that is.
Oh, I just call it Mao Mao because it's more fun for me to say that, especially since Emily and I watch it together. So I just go like, "Are we watching Mao Mao?"
Babe, are we watching Meshi or are we watching Mao Mao?
We Meshi or we Mao Mao?
Mao Mao continues to be great, but I don't really like the new theme song or ending song as much as the first ones. But,
yeah, hard to top those first ones.
Yeah, but yeah, some good, like just wrapping Jinchi around her finger situations going on right now. And he's just turning into such a weird, clingy, like, what are you doing over here? What are you doing over here? What are you doing over here? And she's just like, go away, go away, go away.
He so desperately wants to be liked.
Yeah, he's like me. And she's like, no.
And what's
Go
funny
away.
is you can't tell which he would prefer more sometimes.
Mm-hmm. He loves the abuse.
God. Oh, God. The moment where Mao Mao was giving the lessons to the courtesans was,
Yeah.
yeah, to the consorts was amazing.
Yeah.
And the fact that she was specifically requested just for that is hilarious. As a way of them, like, you could tell, like, at some level they wanted to haze the new girl, and the new girl's just like this enigma, and we know nothing about her, and she was like, whatever about the whole situation.
Did she even read the book? I forget. Or did she just pass it to her assistant who proceeded to have an aneurysm?
I think she passed it to her assistant, but, like, Mama was standing there lecturing. Like, please turn to page 7, and we will go over, like, so, like, she couldn't ignore her standing there and saying all this stuff out loud. I feel really bad for the 14-year-old consort, though. Holy shit, she was not ready for that.
Yeah, that's what we were thinking too when we were watching, like, oh no, sweet summer child.
Yeah.
She's sitting there banging her head against the wall. And then in a later episode, Jinshi's sitting there banging his head against the wall. Like, okay.
I think one of my favorite parts about Jinshi, actually, outside of his relationship with Mao Mao and how he can't tell if he wants to be liked or hated more sometimes, it's weird, but I like the fact that he has a tedious, boring-ass job that he hates. Like, part of me finds that relatable, and I like seeing him do that sometimes when he's not trying to be, flirtatious and precocious with everyone. When it cuts to him just looking through paperwork, those are the times where I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, he has a job here to do and he hates it. Just like most everybody who hates their jobs.
Yep. It's like, yeah, you're technically an official. Here, deal with all this paperwork.
Yep.
Well, funnily, in a funny way, it gives him depth because they have focused on that at points in the show where he's had to make some tough decisions regarding things, and it can give you tonal whiplash sometimes because it'll be a scene where he's being flirty or creepy or whatever, or making a joke or being a joke, and then they'll cut and he's looking over paperwork trying to figure out who he has to, like, fucking fire or some shit.
Yeah, I think in the end credits for this half have him just sitting there looking forlornly out a window crying. I'm like, what is this about?
I think with his shirt off.
Yeah, with his, like, shirt off, holding a sword, kind of, dangling there, just like whatever.
That gave me very, like, 90s shoujo vibes on purpose.
Oh yes, very much so.
Yeah, it's still a lot of fun. Very much so enjoying it. But since I haven't watched the newest episode, I don't really know what has or has not happened.
Well, I'll give you a hint. Jinchi is no longer the creepiest man in the room.
Wow, that's tough. Well, isn't that weird detective-ass looking dude?
Detective-ass looking dude.
Yeah, the one who was looking over the arson at first, and I think he was in the very end of the first episode of the new season when he's, like, walking. He has a monocle, I think.
Yeah,
I can't remember much about him.
It is that guy.
Yeah, so he looks like a fucking dork.
You will learn much about that guy.
Oh, I forgot Kestrel knows all the things.
Yeah.
He's creepy.
He definitely gives off that vibe. But not creepy in a fun way.
No, very not creepy. I mean, very not fun. Very creepy.
Yeah,
I
because
prefer sitcom guys myself.
Yeah, that's more my wheelhouse. Give me more Siscon dudes, please. But Jinchi's creepy, but in a funny way, I guess, because Mao Mao still interacts with him and points out how creepy he is. But this guy looks like he'd be creepy in a psychotic kind of way. So maybe I'm off base there, but that's just the vibe that I get off of him from the little bit of screen time that he has had. So what
Anything
else
else?
do we have on the lists here? What's Weak Tamer? What is that?
Oh, that is the weakest tamer heads off to pick up trash or something.
What?
Yeah, it's got some isekai bullshit title. That I can't remember the actual full title of, because I shortened it to Trash Tamer because I'm like, where was it? Where is it? Where is it? Where are you?
It's Weak Tamer becomes the strongest by taming beauty warriors of different. Oh no.
No, that's not it. That's not it.
Whoa.
How many Weak Tamer isekai anime in the past year have we
Began a
had?
journey. Wait, Weak Tamer began a journey to pick up trash.
Yes,
Hmm.
I believe that is it. Yeah, I missed the part where it said it's not really isekai, it's reincarnation, but and I think the lead isn't so like it. You know, it's a little girl. Her village tries to kill her because she's not special, and she wanders off, befriends a slime, and that's about as far as the show's gone because it's only 2 episodes out. So, it's just cute. It's just cute. It's cute with a little girl wandering around, surviving in the woods and off of trash piles and in a fantasy world.
Probably some like found family stuff.
Probably. We haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah, I mean, as I go through all the isekai shows every season, I feel like I'm on a journey picking up trash.
An awful lot. Oh, God.
Nice.
Ayo.
Zing!
Zing!
Got him.
I'm so over it. Japan, just stop.
How many
Anime
isekais are on your
World.
list, Kestrel? Like I'm looking through it right now.
Let's see. I feel like I don't have that many. Do I have any? Oh yeah, Gimichi is an isekai. Healing Magic is an isekai. Sasaki and Peeps is an isekai. It's a 3, I guess. Sasaki and Peeps is like half isekai, so 2.5.
Yeah, I don't know what that show is either. Actually,
Oh man, that show is so weird. It's like
oh well, now you must talk about it.
it's this middle-aged salaryman. I don't know, he's 50, 30, I don't know, probably 30. So actually,
Balding, crippling arthritis.
yeah, I wanted to mention actually in BUCCHIGIRI in the second episode, the big boss that he fights, who's like a 10-foot tall, 1,000 pounds of pure muscle dude. They talk about how he's like the super old man. He's 21. Yeah. Anyway, so Sasaki is this middle-aged salaryman who goes and buys a pet bird, but the bird is actually like some superpowered reincarnated alien thing. Yeah, like you do.
Yep.
And it's got like magical powers. And so it has like transportation magic, and in addition to transporting around our world, it can also transport him to another dimension. So that's where the isekai comes in. So he just kind of like hops back and forth between them. He eventually learns magic. And he has like a little side hustle going on in the isekai world where, as you do in such a scenario, you import mundane products from our current technology, and everyone in the isekai world loses their mind and gives you all their gold. So he like starts life as a merchant doing that. But then also in our world, it turns out there are already people who have like magical powers, but they're slightly different than this kind of magic because they're like psychic powers. And so he gets found by an organization that deals with that and becomes, part of their ranks kind of unwillingly. And so, yeah, he's in between his life as a salaryman who really appreciates his ability to use transportation magic to avoid the morning commute. And running like his merchant business, importing stuff into the isekai world, and working with these superpowered psychics in our world. And all the while his bird is trying to like execute the master plan to take over the world and stuff. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, you had me up until bird. So
Magical bird.
magical
Yep.
bird.
Yep, that's the first minute or two of the series.
I did look up a picture of the show, and he does look somewhere between 25 and 60.
Yeah.
I can't quite put my finger on how old this dude is. It might be the haircut or the fact that he has an oval for a face. I don't really know what it is.
I mean, he is a salary man, so he by 30 you certainly have enough life drained out of you that you're essentially on death's door anyway.
Yeah, especially because so I'm on MAL looking at this, and the art drawing they used for Sasaki looks much younger than the character portrait, which has hella wrinkles and bags under his eyes. Just like, oh my.
Looks like he's supposed to be 45 at the beginning of the story, maybe. So that's certainly between 30 and 60.
You nailed it.
Oh, he's voiced by Sugita.
Oh yeah. Sugita steals the show, of course.
I mean, to be fair, this series at least sounds more interesting than most isekai.
Right. That's why I say like it's half an isekai and like the wrong way to use healing magic is like surprisingly good for how much of just the formulaic isekai show that it is. It's just like, I don't know, very well executed all around. Like good production values, the characters are likable. They have like a good dynamic. It doesn't have any like really egregious cringe that a lot of isekai does, where it's just like super shitty misanthropic power fantasy bullshit. But yeah, Sasaki is definitely different.
Neat. All right, Brand, did you have anything else that you were watching that you wanted to talk about?
I guess I'll just mention that I'm watching the new Blue Exorcist, which is like such a weird series to follow because it like happens and then goes away for 5 years and then comes back kind of thing. And when I first started watching it, they kind of just like they're like right back into it as if no time has passed, and it gave me a very strange nostalgic feeling like I was back in like freshman year of college in 2012, and I thought that felt kind of cool. So it's also just crazy to me that just like looking back from when it first came out, and it was like that was going to be like the other thing, like next to SAO was like the big thing, but I feel like they kind of lost the plot a bit and then it fades away for 5 years. But the voice cast in this show is just like, I don't know how they can afford to bring all of them back, because it's like so many top dogs in every role in the show. So like having something like this come back is honestly kind of baffling.
Yeah,
But,
they definitely wanted this to be the biggest thing back in spring 2011, and yeah, it just didn't hit.
Right?
And it literally lost the plot because it was one of those ones where they had to make up an ending, and
Yeah.
then one of those ones where you have this very awkward situation where you're like, okay, so we have season 2 now. So pretend everything after this episode didn't happen, because we're just gonna pick up right where we left off at episode 15.
Yeah, they like retconned half of the first season, and then yeah, it was just a very weird situation. And I felt like this should have been, like you said, one of those shows right next to SAO that's just like in every like weird secondhand store next to like a counterfeit Goku figure. There should have been like a counterfeit Luffy and a counterfeit Blue Exorcist figure thing. But yeah, it never reached that. But they're still trying, I guess.
Is
All
it
the
not
years
for lack
later.
of trying? I remember
Yeah.
seeing characters from the show in like the Shonen Jump All-Star Battle games and stuff.
Yeah.
Like as playable main characters. So they really tried to get this thing to cash in.
Yeah. And a lot of people say that this arc, the Illuminati arc, is some of the best stuff in the series. So we'll see. It still looks good too. So like, I'm here for the ride. No other reason besides that. I'm basically watching for nostalgia.
Yeah, I do wonder if it came out more recently, if it would have caught on more, with this expanded audience and with the other big shonen stuff just hitting so hard. I don't know if that would have been a benefit or a detriment to its chances, but yeah.
It gives me hope that maybe some other long lost sequels can make an appearance again. Like, what about Noragami season 3?
True, yeah.
Something like
the
that.
manga for that just ended, so that'd be a good time.
Yeah, exactly. So, I don't know. Pining back to days of yore.
Yeah. Yeah, I watched the first 2 seasons, but I don't know. I guess I just kind of fell off. Didn't really feel like it was a very strong shonen offering, so I didn't feel inspired to go back.
That's fair.
I don't know. It's always felt like just the most generic, and the first season had the dumb filler ending thing, and then the second season had the dumb pretend that didn't happen thing.
Yeah.
And the 6 years between each season just has me going like, well, I haven't thought about this show in 6 years. I probably don't need to come back to it.
Yeah, I'm honestly kind of surprised I'm watching it, because in most normal circumstances, I'd be like, I don't have time for this show that I probably didn't care about that much anyways back then. But I don't know, maybe because it's such slim pickings this season, I'm like, you know what, let's see what this is all about, I guess. So, yeah, it's been fine so far.
Yeah, I know that. I don't
even
have
think-
much
I think
else.
I dropped the manga at some point for Blue Exorcist. So
Nice, that gives me hope.
I mean, I just to be fair, my backlog is stupid, and at some point I just stopped caring.
Isn't that shit still going too?
I think so.
God, it's been so long. Yeah, it's been going for 15 years.
Holy shit.
Jeez.
Continuously?
Yes, I think it's been monthly for most of that time. So that helps.
Certainly.
Speaking of dropping things, I do want to point out that I did decide to not watch Fire Hunter Season 2 because the first season was so confusing and kind of all over the place. But on that note, I will read what DJ said about it, because DJ decided to continue it. DJ says, I feel like the more exposition this show gives me, the less I actually know. None of it makes any sense, and the world is a jumble of a bunch of different histories and ideas that don't really mesh. The art is really good at times and terrible at others. Direction is all over the place, but the atmosphere remains cool, and it's got an interesting mood to it. This anime is basically like if all of the confusing aspects of Shinsekai Yori seceded from the show and then started a new club where no one knew what the objective was. Yeah, I was really down with that show conceptually when I first saw it being a thing, and all like these old head veterans of the industry being like, yeah, we're going to make this really like complicated, like in-depth world, like this show that we all love that's like super old, and it's like, okay, show me what you got. And it was just a mess, and I barely finished the first season, so I really didn't feel like I would get through another, unfortunately. So hopefully DJ sticks through and lets me know if it gets any less confusing.
Poor DJs just seems to be having a rough season period.
Yeah.
I mean, like I told him, this is the season to just ignore all the new stuff and go back to last season and watch all the good shit.
Yeah. Dude went
He'll
to
still have
Japan,
them
came
weekly.
back, and was like, "Do I like anime?"
Have I been bamboozled?
The rare weeb that is more interested in Japan's culture than actually watching anime.
Yeah, now anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess we can kind of go through some of DJ's other comments. So Hokkaido gals are super adorable. He says, fun little rom-com set in bumfuck nowhere Hokkaido. Typical setup where a dude from the city moves to some random suburb and the girl is like, OMG Tokyo guy. But it's done in a way that isn't really over the top, and it feels like the non-romantic focus is on getting people to appreciate their hometown. I always like that. Speaking of DJ's recent journeys, he did spend like most of that time in bumfuck Japan. So
Yeah.
he's definitely, that is his jam.
That gives me like Sakura Quest vibes.
Yeah,
down with
he loved
that.
that show too. Cain, you haven't read anything from the old DJ, have you?
Not yet. Let's
You
see.
want
I'll
to
have
read
to.
one of his remaining ones?
Yeah, I'll have to bring it up here for his comment list. While I do that, real quick, because I'm not entirely sure what it is, but is Fire Hunter the one that's actually about firefighters or firefighting, sort of, kind of?
No, that's Fire Force.
No, wait, no, I thought
Yeah.
that. Fuck.
Well, wasn't there another?
I thought there was a
There's
firefighter.
also Firefighter Daigo, right?
There it is.
Yeah.
That's the one I was thinking of.
No, the Fire Hunter, kind of like what DJ said. It's almost like Shinsekai Yori. It's got like this, like, almost like Edo Japan feel, but also like it's on the verge of like industrializing, and there's like this weird like the gods are angry at the humans, so these like weird mythical creatures attack them and stuff, and these guys called fire hunters like hunt these dangerous creatures. So
I
it's
thought you started this, Cain.
a mess.
I don't recall. I'd have to look at a screenshot or something of it,
Okay.
and then I could confirm with you if I did or if I didn't. It sounds like something that I would at least give a shot to, but there have been lots of things that I've watched like one or a half of an episode and been like, nah, this shit ain't it.
Mm-hmm.
No, this doesn't look super
Okay.
familiar. But I have his list up now, so I think there are maybe two that we haven't talked about, which is,
Yeah.
I'm going to go with bottom tier character Tomozaki-kun Season 2. So, DJ says about this show, it's a sequel I didn't think we'd get since I figured the whole purpose of the anime was just to sell more novels. Feels like the show never ended. Quality is exactly the same and it picks up right where season 1 left off. Just now, the protagonist isn't really an outcast anymore, and it seems like the focus is on trying to get other characters over their hurdles. Overall, a fun show with surprisingly very little time spent on romance. A resounding
Cool. Okay, I can read the last one, which is Snack Bossway. He says,
Is
"This
that how
is
you
one."
pronounce that?
Yeah.
Because, man, I'm glad I didn't pick it then.
I was just like, on like quick glance, I just saw it and said, Snack Boss.
Snack bows.
It's probably better. He says this is one of the most intentionally ugly shows I've ever watched, but it's weirdly enjoyable due to its remarkably dry sense of humor and the closed box setting of a shitty snack bar. Very skit-based with customers just going in and out, and I like the idea of it. It just feels like the budget is roughly $7 per episode.
I guess maybe there's a certain point where even if your show's unintentionally ugly, you gotta put that positive spin on it to make it sound like it was done on purpose. Like, you just don't fucking get it if you think this show's ugly.
Just too deep.
It's too deep for you. Learn how to consume media.
So that's all of DJ's stuff.
Cool. Well, I don't know if you guys had anything else to really discuss too much in depth. We already covered all of mine and Kate's shows, and I think we got all the ones that we had in common, right?
I believe so, yeah.
Yeah.
So, want to
It's
move
kind of
on?
nice diving into some of the weird fringe stuff
Yeah,
I don't
Fringe.
usually have time for.
exactly. Weak season, good continuing season.
Mm-hmm. We'll see where it goes. We'll see if this season can trump being an overall like B minus.
Yeah.
That's where most things are sitting for me right now.
Well, in that case, I think we can move on to recommendations and such before we close out the evening. I don't know what you folks have or not have to recommend. I have one that's anime related. I'm gonna go with
You sound very convinced that.
well, because it's a Netflix thing,
Oh,
and
well,
everything
gonna
that's
get-
animated is anime.
all right. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Let's
We're
see
back-
what
we're
percentage
back
of
on
anime this yeah.
I am in the middle of and am really enjoying it, but Blue Eye Samurai is really good.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I just don't
recommend
know
you
how
guys
much
get
of that is an
it.
anime, but Netflix just calls it an anime.
God, did they really? It is
They do,
0% anime. It is
Yeah, it's in
animated and takes place in Japan.
That's what makes it an anime.
Uh-huh. Man.
That's why I
Yeah.
said anime adjacent, because it's in, when I was searching through Netflix, it was in their anime section, but, so is Castlevania and shit, so
Right.
they don't give two fucks about it. If it isn't that one perverted kids show, then it's anime. Big Mouth. There it is.
Oh, I was going to say,
Oh
well,
God.
that's not a kid's show.
Is that Scott Pilgrim? What are we talking about again?
Not anime. I don't care how much you say it is, Brain. But yeah, Blue Eye Samurai is really good. I would recommend anybody watch it. It's a super good revenge show. The main character is badass. At first, they are a pretty empty slate, but eventually you kind of get these little cracks in their personality so that there is some growth and there's a shitload of badass action. It's pretty stylized in a way to make it, exciting and lots of contrasting the color of blood against like snow and stuff, which I always love. But yeah, would highly recommend watching it. It is pretty fucking cool.
Agreed.
Nice. I would recommend people go see Gurren Lagann in theaters, but by the time this comes out, that has passed. So hopefully you all did that, and you all pierced the heavens together as the seat under you rumbled.
It was an interesting
this-
experience.
Is this old material or?
Yeah.
It's
It's
the
the
compilation movies, basically.
Yeah.
But my real recommendation, though, which is not anime related, really, is to buy Tekken 8 next week and fight it out with me online.
Nice.
Yeah, I've been really hyped for that game for a long time, so it's finally here. Almost.
Kestrel, what about you?
Yeah, I'm trying to see if there's anything exciting this month coming out. Yeah, not a ton that I have to recommend at the moment. I will say, I didn't get a chance to recommend my top film of the year, which was All of Us Strangers, which is not anime related at all, although Justin Sudeikis calls it a Satoshi Kon movie, and I kind of agree. So yeah, it is a very good, very heavy, very painful film. So if that's still in theaters around you, check that out. Yeah, nothing else really catching my eye in terms of like anime home video releases. Bocchi the Rock is coming out later this month, so I guess I will say go get that from the director of Free Run. By the way, if you haven't heard, there's this show called Free Run. Check that out.
You don't say.
Oh, also, we didn't mention this. We could have in our seasonal discussion, but One Piece has a new arc and a new visual style and a new opening that is fucking balls to the wall incredible. So even if you don't watch One Piece, just watch the opening.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Kate, what about you? Anything? Anything at all?
Recommendation. Let me think. Oh, that new Prince Persia game is pretty good.
Oh, the Metroidvania?
Yeah,
I've heard good things about that.
Yeah, I'll probably play it. I'm a sucker for Metroidvanias in particular, so.
I know, me too. So that was nice to have, a big company dump a classic IP onto a new Metroidvania. It was like, oh, cool.
Ubisoft doing their one nice deed every 5 years.
Yeah, basically. They very rarely do anything, that generous anymore. So that's it. That's my one recommendation.
All right, cool. Well, then I think on that note, we can skedaddle for the evening. So, Kestrel, why don't you tell everybody where they can find us and where they can find you in particular?
Yeah, you can find us wherever you find podcasts. Please subscribe, rate, and review. We're on Apple Podcasts, still on Google Podcasts as long as that exists. We are on YouTube on Chris's channel if you want to go that route. We are on Spotify, we're on SoundCloud, we're on iHeartRadio, Alexa, Amazon, Facebook, all that stuff. Fandompost.com, you can find the episodes embedded there. And if you want to get in contact with us, follow us, share our stuff. We are on social media, Facebook and Twitter at Fandom Post Radio. And you can also just email us, fandompostradio@gmail.com. I am on Twitter at FullMetalKioma.
Brian, what about you?
I am on all the socials at Hellshake Brando, and I am not currently reviewing nothing, so yeah.
Excellent. Kate, what about you?
I'm on the internet at Sonic Bug. I do occasionally post on Blue Sky. Amazing if you're on there. Otherwise, you could track me down on our website. I am currently reviewing Apothecary Diaries and Delicious in Dungeon. And whatever manga and light novels I've managed to force myself to get through to review. That's it.
I'm reviewing Shangri-La, Frontier, and BUCCHIGIRI, by the way. BUCCHIGIRI? Sorry.
Yeah, there you go. Make sure you get that right. Yeah, cool. And as always, you can find me right here on the podcast watching animes, talking shit on a bunch of other animes, apparently. So, yeah, as always, thank you for listening. Enjoy whatever you do pick out for the season. And we will talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Peace.